Some heroes just don't look or feel the part. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 worst superhero castings. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we'll be focusing on actors who just didn't fit the part of the superheroes they were cast to play, or gave such terrible performances that they ruined the adaptation of their character.
I got him! Robin, no!
Number 10. Ray Stevenson as Frank Castle / The Punisher. Punisher Warzone.
See you in hell.
I see you anywhere near hell, I'll kick your ass up.
Frank Castle is one of the most aggressive, belligerent heroes that comics have to offer. Unfortunately, someone in the casting department clearly didn't get the memo when they decided to cast Stevenson as the crazy badass. And this is following Dolph Lundgren's shallow 1980s interpretation.
You're a good boy, Tommy. Grow up to be a good man.
The Punisher Stevenson plays is in direct contrast to what audiences expected of the character. Instead of a raging warrior, we get more of a subtle portrayal.
God be with you, Frank.
Sometimes I'd like to get my hands on God.
It's important to remember here that bad casting isn't always the same as bad acting. This is a unique case where the performance isn't inherently bad, but it just completely missed what the character is supposed to be about.
Let me put you out of my misery.
Number 9. Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, Fantastic Four.
What do you mean you can't? Look at me!
As a scientist turned superheroine, the Invisible Woman is supposed to be a combination of brains, beauty, and bravery. But with Jessica Alba's portrayal, you'd think she only existed to provide some eye candy.
Susan, let's not fight.
No, let's.
While she does not completely ruin the movie herself, the problem people have is that she's completely forgettable and comes across as little more than a pretty face.
It has to be the cloud. It's fundamentally altered our DNA.
Her performance as one of Marvel's most famous leading women falls completely flat, and audiences found it hard to even believe that she's a scientist, let alone a superhero.
Shut up!
Number 8. Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson / Robin, Batman and Robin.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
Adolescent angst is turned up to 11 in this performance, resulting in what's often considered to be one of the most annoying superhero portrayals of all time.
I could have made that jump.
And you could have splattered your brains all over the side of the building.
One of the primary conflicts of the film is that the dynamic duo is falling apart, which might even have made for a dramatic storyline if we felt any sympathy for his famous sidekick. Instead, the boy wonder repeatedly comes across as nothing more than a whiny kid.
I got some real issues with women, you know that? You just couldn't stand it she was gonna kiss me and not you. Couldn't stand it something was gonna be mine and not yours.
It doesn't help that O'Donnell himself was nearly 30 at the time that the movie was made, making him seem all the more immature when his character acted like a brat.
This is no partnership. You're never gonna trust me.
Number 7. George Clooney as Bruce Wayne / Batman, Batman and Robin.
Nice catch.
You break it, you buy it.
If you thought the sidekick was bad, well, you get a load of the real hero, who many comic book fans believed was even worse. Now, in all fairness to Mr. Clooney, the awful script gave him really nothing to work with. However, this is an actor who seemed to be born to play a billionaire playboy, so watching him completely squander the role of a lifetime is pretty disappointing.
My rules that keep us alive, and if you want to stay in this house and on this team, you will abide by them.
Displaying none of the charm of Bruce Wayne or the grittiness of Batman, this portrayal completely lacks any of the character we expect from the Caped Crusader. Instead, we watch Mr. Clooney completely phone it in, as he delivers one deadpan one-liner after another.
Get the ice, I'll get the ice man.
Number 6. Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze / Ghost Rider, Ghost Rider.
And you'll find me there. The spirit of vengeance. Fighting fire with fire.
When casting a cool, badass superhero that is literally the agent of the devil, Nick Cage is pretty much the exact opposite of what you need. Yet, here he is, delivering a weirdly out-of-place performance in what critics consider to be an already poorly written film.
My daddy once said if you don't make a choice, the choice makes you.
Yeah.
At times, his portrayal of Johnny Blaze is bland and uncharismatic, and at other moments is simply too intense or over the top. At the end of the day, even the most dramatic moments of the film are kind of ruined, as it is very difficult to take Cage seriously.
He may have my soul, but he doesn't have my spirit.
Number 5. Seth Rogen as Britt Reed, the Green Hornet, the Green Hornet.
That's a very big gun.
As one of the most obscure superheroes, viewers might not have had much of an idea who the Green Hornet was when initially going into the movie. After watching it though, they're probably just as clueless.
I want you to take my hand, and I want you to come with me on this adventure.
I'll go with you, but
I don't want to touch you.
The problem isn't that Rogen puts in a terrible performance as the titular hero, it's that he hardly puts in a performance at all, perhaps banking on the assumption that very few readers actually know who the Green Hornet is. Rogen plays him off as a goofy everyman rather than as a serious vigilante.
Let's not blow this thing out of proportion.
I will blow this guy in any proportion I like.
Many felt that the entire time he felt as if he was just being himself, rather than actually portraying a character. Ultimately, this feels more like a copy and paste job from Knocked Up and Pineapple Express, rather than a unique take on a superhero.
Let's say he actually found the roach. How could he connect the Pineapple Express weed to you?
Number 4, David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. Nick Fury, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I will see you in hell for this.
We'll do lunch.
Before the iconic portrayal that audiences know and love today, there was a much hammier version of Nick Fury that is probably best forgotten. On paper, this seemed to be like the perfect casting. Hasselhoff looks exactly like the tough, macho Nick Fury that the comic readers had known.
Thought you were dead.
I was, but now I'm better.
It's when he tries to act that things really fall apart, though. Everything he says comes across as fake and cartoonish, completely ruining any sense of realism that the film had going for it. Ultimately, this goes to show that there's a lot more to superhero casting than just how you look.
I wouldn't do that, Doc. Those things have a way of backfiring.
Number 3, Shaquille O'Neal as John Henry Irons / Steel.
Never could make the free throws.
As Michael Jordan's Space Jam showed, giving a basketball superstar his own movie isn't necessarily a bad idea.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. You want a piece of me? Come and get it.
But just because an athlete has charisma doesn't mean that he or she is cut out to be an action hero. While Shaq definitely has the size and build to play the Superman-inspired superhero Steel, what people perceived as his, well, inability to act really made the whole movie seem kind of like a joke.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I don't want to hear uh-oh.
His limited range of emotions and cringeworthy delivery have made it impossible for moviegoers to view this as a legitimate acting performance, as practically every line comes across as more laughable than serious.
You should always buckle up.
Number 2, Halle Berry as Patience Phillips / Catwoman.
Cats come when they feel like it, not when they're told.
Audiences were already lukewarm towards Berry's portrayal of the X-Men's Storm, so maybe giving her a second shot at playing superhero wasn't the best idea.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
When Patience Phillips comes in contact with an ancient Egyptian cat, she begins to become more and more cat-like herself. However, according to critics, Halle Berry takes things a little bit too far in her attempts to seem feline. It's one thing to show some subtle cat-like tendencies, and another to overact at every possible opportunity. She turns one of the most mysterious and seductive femme fatales in fiction into a complete caricature, resulting in one of the silliest superhero performances ever on screen.
It's me you flush down the pipes. I'm Patience Phillips.
Before we reveal our number 1 pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
This isn't a game. You do not send civilian equipment into my active war zone. You understand that?
Don't worry. That's not that bad.
Yeah. How do you know?
I died once.
Number 1, Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock / Daredevil.
You're holding back.
Yes.
Stop.
Playing a blind man with heightened sensitivity is one of the most difficult acting jobs a superhero movie could demand. That's why this miscasting is particularly unfortunate, while this role could have been complex and nuanced. Instead, we got what people have called one of the most wooden portrayals imaginable.
Well, could you be a little bit more specific?
Affleck's performance is stiff, and he lacks any of the toughness or grit that makes this character tick. It feels like we're just watching an empty shell going through the motions, making every dramatic moment and character interaction seem kinda hollow.
I didn't kill your father.
Liar.
Some casting mistakes just make bad movies worse, but this is one miscasting that turned a potentially decent movie into an awful one. Well, according to critics anyway.
You killed the only 2 people I ever loved.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.